So it actually took me 5 years of full-time being an AI researcher for me to become this AGI-pilled, so to say. I felt like it was so hard for me to feel the wave crash over me. I really feel this like difficulty. If you just look at 10 years ago to today, which I wrote about, the Transformer paper not even out yet, and then just last year, the Pope named himself Leo because of artificial intelligence. And just that level of change going from a small academic niche no one's heard about to, the world spending like close to $1 trillion on investment. If you see this and you're not convinced, I'm not sure what would convince you. How many more doublings do you think we need before this like total physical transformation happens? Either this like AI investment is going to exceed world GDP, which means it's going to have to crash, or we're going to have to grow world GDP because of the AI. We will know the answer in the next 5 years.
Like it will either implode or we will enter a new epoch.
Like all of us are wondering what's going to happen. It's sort of like knowing like a pandemic level event is on the horizon. We just don't know if it will be very good or bad. Totally valid question. What am I supposed to do about that, right? But maybe one thing is just like, it just becomes a lot easier to stop caring about the petty things. I wish I didn't care so much about what other people thought of me, or I wish I spent more time with my friends or something like that.
Quote from you: "My only contribution to the literature is this. Are you having fun?" My question to you is, are you having fun?
I am having a blast. Are you?
Welcome to Dialectic, episode 53 with Zhengdong Wang. Zhengdong is an AI researcher based here in London, and I got to know him by way of his annual letters, particularly his 2025 letter at the end of last year. In it, he wrote about what he calls the compute theory of everything, about how scaling laws have brought us an incredibly long way in AI and will carry us far into the future. It was one of the first things that I read that really made me believe in where we're going. Obviously, you use AI models, you look back at the progress, but as he articulates in the piece, it can be hard to really feel the wave, to really feel the AGI, in part because you're just comparing it to what you most recently used, and the progress is, while fast, fairly incremental. One of the things I focused the conversation on is how the rest of the world, outside of a small number of people primarily working at AI labs, can not only think about and prepare for, but feel the future that is coming, or frankly, feel the future that is already here. I talked to him about what it means to be a researcher, AGI as a term, and why a better frame for AI may simply just be the model does the eval, and about this notion that he uses in the piece to describe the feeling of the wave crashing over you as you understand what being on an exponential means when it comes to artificial intelligence. And importantly, Zhengdong also is able to talk about why, despite some concerns, and despite the fact that it certainly is going to be different and there is going to be change, AI could be one of the great transformative technologies, not only of our time, but of all times. You can also find the transcript and all the links for the topic we discuss at the link in the description at dialectic.fm/Zhengdong. I hope you enjoy the conversation. And before we get into things, I would like to thank Notion, Dialectic's presenting partner. Notion is a collaborative workspace for your life's work that has rebuilt itself from the ground up for the AI era. One of my favorite articulations of Notion comes from an idea from Jeffrey Litt, who is episode 21 on the podcast, and shortly after I interviewed him, actually joined Notion, and that is malleable software. Jeffrey argues that software should feel like any environment a craftsperson might use, a kitchen, a workshop, in that the user can shape their tools and their environment to fit them and their needs. Increasingly, software is easier than ever to create. You can ask an LLM to create nearly anything. And yet, being able to have living, adaptable, flexible software that integrates with every other tool you use, that is collaborative, that can be shaped and formed to whatever you and your team need, remains remarkably powerful. In Notion's case, this not only applies to you personally, but your entire team, and now the agents and AI that you work with as well. And Notion's ultimate goal, as stated by founder and CEO Ivan Zhao, is that it help us think together in the long run as we have more and more capability. The goal of doing things, building things, and thinking together is what enables human ingenuity. You can learn more at notion.com/dialectic. With that, here's my conversation with Zhengdong Wang. Zhengdong Wang, thank you for joining me. This is a long time coming. I'm really excited to talk about
Great to be here.
All kinds of things. We are going to start with research. Research is, as you say, at its core, a human activity. Why, either in this context explicitly or even going back farther, back to college or high school, like why was research something that It's also relatively unique for at least software and kind of like Silicon Valley technology. The word research is like outside of AI, it's like not very common. Um, why not just go be a software engineer? Like what about the orientation of research was so compelling to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I didn't know this when I started college and sort of like had to discover it too. But I really think it is just something like you have a question and you don't know the answer, and you really, really want to find the answer. Maybe for a lot of other people with different preferences, they get just as much satisfaction out of here's a system and you optimize it, or you know it impacts a lot of people, and that gives you the same sort of satisfaction. Maybe I could just say like my preference is I just want to know the answer to things. Like I just want to acquire information, and that makes me happy. I just want to know. So when I was doing internships or doing research assistantships or all kinds of things you try out in college, I just found that actually when I did the software engineering internship, I would go through the summer and do a lot of stuff, and it would be very satisfying. But I could sense that I was getting bored even at the end of 2 or 3 months because I could sort of see where it was going, and I imagined like, oh, this thing will get bigger, we'll scale it, more people will use it, and it will become even faster, and all of that was great. But because I could see the end of it, it suddenly was less interesting to me. Maybe different personality types, and mine is like I just want to acquire information. And so this aspect of something being unknown, whether it's like a really big fact or a really small thing, just the satisfaction of being able to, be paid to go answer questions that I have with incredible resources is really interesting.
Are you easily bored?
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, yeah, I'm one of those people who goes about different projects and should probably finish them, finish more of them.
Do you think that's common amongst researchers?
I think. I think so. I think there's probably a bunch of different ways to be a good researcher, and this is one of them. You're more curious about a broad range of things, but I also feel like a really great research archetype is you just can't move on until you know the answer, right? And so you're just incredibly obsessive, and you just do like a depth first search, and you just keep going and asking like, why is this weird? Or like in the process, you see a bunch of weird things and you just chase down every single one of them. And that's what gives you like a better mental model of the whole thing. And lets you see patterns or make connections that you wouldn't have known to plan ahead of time, just because you notice something weird and you're not satisfied, just like leaving that be so you can go explore something else.
I think of on your blog, you recommend Laura Deming's "The Rage of Research."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like captures that spirit that
Yeah.
just like I have to.
I really wish I could channel that more because I don't often feel very enraged as a person. So I just try to think of rage as like I just really want to know, or like deep
Hmm.
interest or something.
Aside from disposition, what do you think, either in the general sense or at least for you personally, makes for a good researcher, and maybe more specifically for a good research engineer?
Hmm. Knowing what to draw as an abstraction is a kind of just like prioritization. I often find myself when I go between different projects, just sort of going back and forth between two extremes before finding a dialectic, as you know, where it's like, the last project I went too fast and I skipped over some things, or I had to backtrack and redo a lot of things, and so this time I'm going to be really careful and I'm going to do things very, very slowly but surely. But then you do that project and then you realize, well, the field of AI moves very fast, and that was definitely the wrong choice. And you just need to be better at like having better taste, having better prioritization,
Hmm.
and knowing what to skip and what not to skip. And then you maybe do a project on that extreme, and you go too fast again. And I think finding this balance is just something that you need to get a lot of reps in to improve at.
Maybe there's a case to be made that research, perhaps more than almost anything else, is really about holding tension between
Oh
explore
yeah,
choice.
yeah. I think that's fair. And then I am all about maybe this is a cop out to answer this sort of question, but I am all about like you just have to do both at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And the idea of like, oh, just one is better, or that you should just focus on one thing at a time. I think that
Maybe for a Y Combinator startup, that
yeah,
is right. But
Maybe,
right.
but I think that is just too easily conceding that you aren't able to do everything at once. There's also this quote of like you just need to do everything and then you will win. The
Lyndon Johnson.
LBJ Caro thing. I feel like
Has that been true in general for AI research, do you think?
No, I don't think it's possible to do everything basically. And even as the field just grows a lot, there's just way too much to do. And so I think there's going to be infinite demand for compute.
Are those who
and
have
everything.
done, sorry to interrupt, are those who have done the best generally over the last 5-7 years the ones who have on the margin done more, or are the ones who have chosen better? It's kind of a ridiculous question. But.
I think it's chosen better, just because of the amount of different things you could try all the time. And I think even if you're not doing research and you're just scrolling through Twitter or like looking at all these papers, right? You defer a lot of curation to people telling you what to read, or even if it's not worth reading, the fact that everybody else has read it means that this is something that's like that you should know about, right? Even if it's just to know what the conversation is. One important aspect of research is that you just need to be part of the conversation, whatever that conversation it is that's going on. It might be really stupid. It might be just totally wrong, and history will later show that this is like a totally wrong direction. But especially if you're a researcher looking to join the field and you're not already established in it, I think you might have your own maybe even very correct ideas of what you should be doing, what the field should be doing, but that just like getting yourself into the conversation, whatever that might be, even if it's now like just being on Twitter instead of publishing journal articles or things like that, is like a important first step.
It's kind of another instance of you have to do both, which is one problem certainly Silicon Valley has these days is like it can be remarkably mimetic. And I guess what I'm hearing you saying is like you kind of need to both be in the conversation enough to not be like missing obvious things, and you need to be removed enough to be able to hopefully have some new ideas that aren't like in the core stream of what everybody else is trying.
Yeah. So
just do both.
Cop out answer again. Just do both, but both are true at the same time.
Yes. Hedgehogs and foxes all over again. AGI. You kind of continually come back to this theme that AGI is a moving target. I think this is you in 2023. To be clear, I'm not saying that building something most people would call an AGI is impossible. Instead, I more and more see the world where we build a machine that people agree is AGI before we write some words that people agreed defines AGI. And you actually have a different frame that you spend like most of your 2024 letter on, which is the model does the eval, as kind of this continuous frame to think about AI progress rather than like, are we at AGI yet? You might even say that the only time AI researchers are doing AI research is when they choose the evaluation. The rest of the time, they're just optimizing a number. And then at the most abstract level, the model does the eval describes the entire field of researchers pursuing general intelligence. Maybe we can start simple or perhaps not so simple. What makes a good eval?
I just think it's if it's something people find useful. So if you take one extreme of the position I'm giving, it's just very empirical, right? Like just totally ignoring and anything predictive that you might want to say about AGI. Just that. In the process of going through human life, we have all of these things that we want to accomplish. Some of them might be like growing food, some of them might be folding your laundry, and then there's vaguer stuff like we pay each other to do some cognitive work that's like harder to define, that maybe once a year we do a performance review of people on, and then at the very end there's some like philosophical topics that people have been working on for thousands of years and haven't found the answer to. I just think that anything that people find either useful in itself or just useful instrumentally, but still very useful, would make a good eval. So when the models couldn't just do basic language things, then that's useful just as a proof of like, are we making progress towards something that isn't useful yet, but is definitely, we know, or we're pretty sure is better than the other stuff. And now we have these like large bundles of evals that do math, code, a bunch of different things, and then I think there is a lot of generalization that's very surprising. Like, I don't think there's a lot of optimizing going on about like how good of a therapist it is, for example. But as the models get better at coding, they also happen to be good therapists. And so as you get closer to the real thing you want, then you can set your eval to just be a very specific, like just can you grow my food, can you wash my clothes, and all of that is just very useful, even if it's not general. And people care about the definition of general because they want to draw a distinction of like what is it that makes us human, what distinguishes us from non-intelligence or possible other intelligences. And so in drawing this definition, you might want to draw the distinction or the boundaries very clearly, and so come up with evals for that. But I think that is also a bigger, more long-term question, and possibly hopeless, right? Because we've had a lot of human intelligence, writing books about what is a distinction, what are useful distinctions for a long time. That's not scaled up super intelligence super fast, of course, but I think there has been some progress in that. Philosophers would know better than me, but I think there's been non-zero progress. At the very least, it's been interesting for a lot of people over many, many years to think about and talk about with each other to make each other better thinkers. And so those evals are harder to define, useful in different ways. Maybe one day we'll get the LLMs to do them, but maybe it's not useful because they're mainly for humans.
Man, I have a bunch of questions. Is this is sort of abstract, but is all AI research science?
So one time, David Ha tweeted, AI research is just applied philosophy, and I just really like that tweet. And it's a shame he doesn't tweet anymore. But when you ask if it's all science, I think AI research also appealed to me a lot in college because it could be everything. Research engineering is like looking all possible thing you could do in research and engineering. It really is like AI research has this arrogance that it could be everything, right? And now there's these post-AGI teams popping up across all of the labs, and it's like you do have a remit to talk about economics, right? Because it of course will affect that of all of the humanities, like philosophy. What does it mean to live a good life, to find meaning in work, in religion, in relationships? It just accelerates all of the things that people would be thinking about if their material needs and emotional needs were taken care of. You just see straight to the end of what you would be doing with your time, right? When people ask what will you be doing in a post-AGI world, it is I would say very very similar to asking the question what would you be doing if you had all your like financial things figured out, if you had your relationships and everything figured out. Maybe you would be creating art, maybe you would be asking about these philosophical questions, maybe you would be pushing yourself in some athletic event subject to constraints that are you totally set upon yourself, right? Nothing is really that different in that way, and AI or AI research covers everything, has the arrogance to think it could cover everything, but it's just very broad and accelerates what you would be doing without AI anyway.
You have a point in that piece where you talk about the two conclusions of if you take the model does the eval to the end. First, you say the first awesome conclusion of the model does the eval is that we will achieve every evaluation we can state. You want to say, is there any limit to the model does the eval? Its second awesome conclusion is that we will fall short on every capability we struggle to state. I think this is interesting in the context of something you said earlier, which is there are actually all these emergent properties of AI too. Like the evolution of evals from the outside looking in at least went from like, do you know this information? Can you solve this math problem? To increasingly stuff today, like, can you do this economically viable activity? And increasingly also we seem to keep finding, in large part due to scaling, just like even more good stuff keeps falling in. And so I'm almost wondering, like, are we already at the point where there's still plenty of evals we could presumably create, but like, it feels almost more like saying, recognizing after the fact, after the model has done something, it's more like RLHF, or something like that? Does that distinction I'm
Yeah.
making make sense?
Maybe one practical thing that I think would fall under this that's like hard to state. Maybe one day we'll be able to state it. Is just a lot of jobs that potentially the tasks that make up the job could all be automated, but that even still, it's really hard to know. Before the fact, how good an employee is going to be. Maybe jobs in the modern sense have only existed for not very long, but it's still long enough. Like I don't know when the first job performance review ever was, but maybe even when they were building the pyramids in Egypt is like hard to specify, or maybe easier. You just like how many rocks did you did you put on?
Place.
Yeah. But that's like. Has been tried very hard, right? And now, even if you could say, as part of this job of a cognitive work, I produce this spreadsheet in this case that's subject to these very specific parameters, right? But then once you have a tool that does that, just like the computer was a tool, or the spreadsheet is a tool that automated a lot of humans doing computers, then the job totally changes, and then what defines like you being an employee at this company, maybe you just accelerate straight to like just how much revenue did this employee bring in, right? Like as a company,
Right.
yeah,
We've actually designed a lot, at least large parts of society is designed pretty heavily around a meritocratic-ish orientation around markets. It's
right,
like that's your worth. And
yeah,
granted, it's abstracted because it's actually what does your boss think or whatever. But I don't know, that as a template, for example, for how model evals happen, like Claude's value as a reference point based on how much revenue it creates in the world opens up a can of worms for like how Claude is going to evolve.
right, yeah. And you're like, okay, so the actual stuff that we thought we could say is actually pretty vague. So let's just go up some level of abstraction, like abstract the exact tasks in the bundle, and let's just say how much revenue, right? Or like a possibly related thing is just how much joy did you bring to your colleagues? Maybe we live in a world where everyone just needs to have a job for some societal reason that we haven't closely examined. Like you want to go to work, you want to feel like you're contributing to your community, have a sense of purpose, right? And then if you're like a personality hire, non-derogatory, then it's really hard to specify. But you'd be doing a good job if you are charismatic, and your colleagues enjoy working with you, and you raise the spirits of everyone, and everyone just feels like they live a more fulfilled life. I think this is also hard to specify, and maybe your performance review at the end of the day, justifiably, is just like how happy did you make everyone? How much does everybody like you? And I think that's fine too. But yeah, so going back to your original question of like model does the eval, what can we specify, what can we not specify? I think a very near-term practical thing that's relevant for AI research is like these jobs where a lot of the tasks we will surely automate. What does that mean for the job? Like the job being an abstraction that bundles these tasks currently, but surely will change. And what is even a job? It's also on the spectrum of like purpose in life to like a specific set of tasks that needs to be done. That's like very, very fuzzy and unclear. But the awesome conclusions of you just keep looking around for all of these tasks. A bunch of humans are trying very hard at this right now. More and more humans will join the field of like specifying things. Just like for all of history, we've been trying to specify things. Soon there will be more AI agents joining in this task of like looking at all the things and trying to specify them better. And maybe in the end, we'll just have these like impossible to specify things like what is consciousness or something.
And by when you say what things to specify, you're kind of, that's the model does the eval package inside of that. If I'm understanding
Yeah,
right.
so like you want to specify things because once you do that, and then you have this very general algorithm that can
The galaxy brain
solve.
can warp machine towards it.
Yeah.
When it comes to the future of AI research, especially that last bit, which is like, we will struggle to hit evals we fail to specify. A lot of this is speculative, but especially as we move towards the world where like we are seemingly approaching the automated AI researcher, how do you expect AI research to actually happen? Are we going to offload most of these evals to the models themselves? This also gets a little into, like, I was just rereading the Leopold PDF, and he gets to the superintelligence harness part, and he's kind of just like, I think we're going to come up with something kind of like RLHF, but like TBD. And like one answer would be to go back to it is like, we want models that are good at creating economic value. And we can kind of measure that based on the like hive mind AI of capitalism.
Yeah.
But we don't have many other things like that for other types of values.
Okay, so I'm going to give like a overview of like my current thinking on this related to RSI, but it's very lightly held. So RSI is even easier than people make it out to be, and then the artifact
RSI
of-
is
recursive self-improvement.
okay.
Yeah, so like getting the AI to specify the evals for itself and things like that, and the artifact that comes out of it, this AGI that does very well on all of these evals, well, will also be easier than people think, but that once we have that, it won't be what it's cracked up to be. So recently, Jack Clark wrote this post that he thinks, based on public information, that 60% chance of achieving RSI, so achieving this totally end-to-end frontier research, totally automated by the end of 2028. But I think that if we think of all of recursive self-improvement as some kind of spectrum as well, we're like well on the way on this spectrum. And if we just think of it as this is a way to get any eval, like any single number or any bundle of evals, up, then it's just like some kind of meta algorithm, some kind of meta search. And while you're working on this, you're kind of procrastinating the question of what makes a good eval.
Totally.
Right? Yeah. So like
it's sort of like AlphaZero even. Like it's sort of just like we will surely develop the war machine out. I don't mean it in the violent sense, but like the super algorithm to solve to any endpoint.
Yeah, like just like this super laser that once you focus it on something, it will be solved.
Yes.
We don't know how to define consciousness. There's all these philosophical questions that we've have a hard time specifying. But there's all this like low hanging fruit of like, now researchers spend a lot of time like copy pasting paths or like generating these plots by hand, changing the colors of the lines and things like that. And like all of this obviously could be automated or just like is very, very well within sight, if not done already. So Andre Karpathy's auto research is like a very basic version of this.
On some level, it sort of sounds like you're saying we will have laser beams, and for the most part, it will be people pointing the laser beams at something. But the laser beams are just getting better, stronger, they last longer, whatever. And it sounds like you're a little bit skeptical in the near term of like the AIs knowing where to point the laser beams themselves.
I think it will happen. I just don't know when, and maybe compared to like the optimistic AI researcher,
the 2028 country of geniuses in a data center take off all like.
So I mean, on that it will be like everyone has a country of geniuses in their pocket as well, but that's a different
yeah.
But on the laser beams, yes, I think we will have like these very high powered laser beams. I think right now we for since forever have had these laser beams that are just like human expert AI researchers. Right, like 10 years ago when it was an academic niche, we had like a few very high-powered, human laser beams that were like copy pasting the checkpoint paths themselves and like doing this kind of search themselves. And then because the models are general, because they really do replace tasks that are very useful to AI research, and they're hugely complementary to humans, and that's really all you need. We're like expanding the number of barrels on the gun, and there's just like so much to do. There's just so many things to try that even with the incredible pace that we're building out compute, that talent is joining the field, and we're like doubling the number of barrels on the gun. It still won't be enough. Or now we just like expand what we want to do, right? Like we look at all these fields of cognitive work and soon physical work, and we'll be like, okay, so now we need to optimize this for this particular task, for this particular job. And you might think in the end, well, none of this is very general, right? You're just like sort of brute forcing.
It's the AlphaGo creativity thing.
Yeah, you're searching all
you're
possible
brute forcing
moves.
Creativity.
Yeah, right. and at the end of that, you think like move 37 is like the obviously best move, and without having exhaustively done that search, it looks like a genius to you. But if you had looked at all the millions of moves, then then it's sort of obvious or something. But you do this for like all the spreadsheeting jobs or something like that, and then
or eventually for invention. Like part of, again, maybe I'm thinking about this wrong, but like part of the way I'm almost thinking this laser beam metaphor is like at some point we'll have big enough lasers that you can point the lasers at cancer, and you just say like run the search, And granted, that's not actually one giant
Yeah.
tractor beam. It's like a million different laser beams of so many different permutations. But if you scale it enough,
Yeah, no, I think it is a good analogy because maybe one thing I'm surprised by, I'm not sure how much other people are surprised by, maybe they are too, is like how easy language is, or I actually do think a lot of other people would be surprised by this, where maybe like a early research agenda, I think OpenAI published it, I don't remember, they had all these bets early on in the company, including RL, including robotics and things like that, and it wasn't so clear that language would be like the first solved. Maybe it would be the last solved. And the thing that we're doing right now, talking to each other in this space of language, it's surprising, or could be a little depressing, just how predictable all of this is, right? That we could do so much of language, like not the best poems, not the best novels, but so much of what we do with language is actually like extremely statistically predictable, or just like there's these like connections, or we can interpolate between the spaces. And maybe you could say the same about a lot of biology, or like this our human laser beams are just doing like very little jaunts into the this big unknown, and there's so much we don't know in the universe, like there's
Yes.
so much we don't know. And this like very powerful statistical tool, or like the thing Demis Hassabis says in his Nobel lecture, his challenge is like, I'm sure we'll find a link, but like a classical algorithm will be able to like solve all of these problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you have a galaxy-sized calculator, most complex problems are just a matter of time and search.
Yeah, and we could just be surprised by how simple it is relative to.
And we're almost conflating that for this word we call intelligence, perhaps. So it'll be like a slightly strange but plausible view on what AI is, which is actually there's no threshold of intelligence, and it's just again, big enough search, big enough data set.
Yeah. So I just think the whole AlphaGo, AlphaFold, like this analogy is super useful, and it kind of really quickly speed ran through. There's pre-training, there's
Yes.
RL. It's this very clean, like what counts as winning a game, what counts as like a value or something like that, and you can just map it on these much fuzzier spaces that
Yes.
humans do. And then maybe at the end of the day, we find that all of the things that we humans do that we think are very complicated, it's actually like an extremely low dimensional statistical thing in the entire universe. And so we have these powerful things that it could just like find all the patterns really fast, interpolate all the spaces really fast.
What I'm sort of hearing you imply is that it's very plausible that most of the things we know a lot about and our intelligence itself might not actually be that complicated. And the universe might still actually be wildly far more complicated than we can possibly imagine. Like it's possible AI speed runs us, and then it still hardly knows anything.
Yeah. And I think Demis does a really good job of like keeping us focused on these stakes of like this Silicon Valley like techno singularity kind of where we're gonna have Dyson spheres, we're gonna have extreme abundance. Like even that is like so small, or just like pales in comparison to true nature of reality, which is like we have no idea what's going on in this whole universe, and we have this chance of like understanding like a tiny bit, like seeing some patterns, or like touching the fabric of reality of the whole thing. And so we could be more ambitious, or that's like even weirder. It's like hard to
it's humbling and inspiring at the same time. It's June 2026. I don't know when we'll put this out, but probably around now. And I generally try not to have conversations that are super like of the moment, but I think it's worth grounding the time, in part because I want to talk about the main theme of your 2025 letter, which is, I would say, it was probably the first thing I read where I, at least very strongly secondhand, felt the wave crash over me. Probably using some of these tools lately. And you basically lay out what you would call your compute theory of everything. You say, however hard I try, I don't think my descriptions will even move you much. You need to pick your own test. It should be a problem you know well, one you've worked on for years, and one you're supposed to be an expert in. You need to predict the result year after year. Then you need to watch AI confound those predictions anyway. Kind of a version of what we were just talking about. Like, actually, maybe language isn't that hard. I think we are in a different part. We're in a different time than we were even in December when you wrote this. The U.S. government has started to pay more attention, so on and so forth. And yet, most people clearly still haven't felt the wave. Do you think for every individual person, it's just going to be this kind of thing? Like, do you think there is a macro event that would convince people? Is it getting easier for you to convince people? Maybe a different way of asking the question, to use a metaphor used in the piece, is like, will there be like a March COVID moment where like in January and February it was available for people to see, but like the world didn't wake up?
Yeah, this is a great question. This is something I keep thinking about all the time too. So I wanted to write this particular thing for the letter because I felt like it was so hard for me to feel the wave crash over me. And as I mentioned, I maybe have longer timelines than the optimistic AI researcher. So it actually like took me 5 years of full time being an AI researcher for me to become this AGI-pilled, so to say. For this to happen, like I had to see so much evidence, like just before my
evidence
eyes.
across time,
Yeah.
which is that first quote is kind of that's the critical part of it. Is like, I tried this, now I saw it be not that good. 2 years passed. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So evidence across time, like repeated instances and tests that I set for myself. So it's not like you're telling me what this test is. You're telling me it's really impressive. It's like I know this problem. I know it would be impressive.
You have finger feel in that problem.
Right. And like I know like you can't cheat on this in ways that I would know about or something. And that's just like such an expensive way to AGI pill someone.
To learn someone.
Like you can't expect everyone to spend 5 years of their life full time.
Or shut down all the schools in the COVID metaphor.
Yeah. So there must be some accelerating way of this. When you're talking about the COVID analogy, I think one thing that will do it would be like robots. Or like that's like maybe my upper bound on
robots
on when it will
walking
happen.
around.
Yeah.
But not a perfect metaphor, but like I remember the first time I got in a Waymo and I was like videoing the Waymo and I'm like, this is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
I got in the Waymo. 60 seconds later, I was on my phone and I had forgotten.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So that also needs to be like repeated instances where you're like, okay, so this week Waymo showed up, and then the next week there's these automated like house building robots that like started building data centers in my backyard.
You have to be thrust into moving history, perhaps on a repeated sense.
Right.
Like it can't just be one instance of moving history.
Yeah.
It has to be like you're feeling the
right. And I think that countries that have developed really fast in the last few decades, my parents' generation, like feel this very like deep in their bones, where they grew up in China, and when they were kids, there was like rationing. They had like meat once a month or something like that, and now they live in this big suburban house in the U.S. and it's really great.
Not to mention even so many parts of China.
Yeah,
Jasmine Sun had this line somebody sent in about like the skyscrapers popping up like mushrooms.
Right. Yeah, and there's this picture of Shenzhen 20 years ago, and now it's like just like a field, and then 20 years later there's skyscrapers. And Matt Iglesias tweeted like, "I bet this really ruined the character of the neighborhood," or something like that. But that just like living through that over a long period of time, seeing so many changes like that makes you feel it, right? But so that's the upper bound of
it is like a fundamental characteristic of humans that we like. You don't see your kid's baby for 3 months, and it seems like they've grown like. They've doubled in size, yet the parent doesn't notice it. This is like for better or for worse, we are so good. We might hate change, but we're so good at normalizing change, which makes this jolting hard.
Yeah. And so I really have to credit people who are like way more rational than me, or the community maybe that was like rationalist adjacent or calls themselves it. They were early to the pandemic. They were early to AI. They deserve huge credit for that. And I just can't get myself to do that, and I had to see so much evidence, and so I really feel this like difficulty of like I feel very very privileged also to be surrounded by people who are like very optimistic about AI, telling me all the time, trying to convince me of things, and then finally I was like, okay, I've got it, and now I'm like some people say like off the deep end or something.
Was that intellectual or more? I don't know.
Yeah,
metaphysical, spiritual.
It definitely has to be a combination. So there's these like piece of evidence I see for myself, but then you still need someone to handhold you through the rational, like look at the bigger picture, look broadly across society, and then I also tried to do this in the opening to my letter, and I keep trying like new ways of doing this. So maybe I'll try now, which is like 10 years ago, it's like the Transformer paper not even out yet. 15 years ago, that was about when deep learning started working, the AI could start recognizing cats and dogs. And then just last year, the Pope named himself Leo because of artificial intelligence. And he's like, this is a revolution that deserves the same kind of shepherding that the first industrial revolution went through, and that's why I'm going to name myself Leo. And also there's like IMO gold medals, which are like not even impressive now 6 months into the year, right? And just that level of change, or like going from a small academic niche no one's heard about to the world spending like close to $1 trillion on investment, or it's like propping up the economy and things like that. And now in more like recent still unresolved political news, the federal government realizing some of these models are like really cybersecurity dangerous, and this like thing still not being resolved, right? Like I'm just like, if you see this and you're not convinced, I'm not sure what would convince you. That's one aspect of it. And looking forward, it's like, okay, so maybe you've just started reading the news, just woken up from a coma. You're like, okay, I can see that AI is a big thing, but
if you had woken, I would argue if you had woken up from a coma, it would be easier.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
This is the thing, is that like I'm not referencing, I don't know, it just came out that OpenAI 5.6, ChatGPT or GPT 5.6, the government I think is going to be like hand selecting who gets access to it.
Right. Yeah. Every individual or something.
If you showed me that relative to 2 years ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh. But they just banned, or whatever. They banned Fable.
Yeah. Like, that's super fair. So I did try to go like, imagine 10 years ago and then now. But say you see everything now and you're like, okay, I grant that AI is a big deal now. But still, maybe like bigger than the microwave or something, but like not like millennium defining technology, which
or even like the internet was a big deal. Like I think there's like, we're starting to get to the point, or even the Industrial Revolution. I have a sort of idea in my head that like the Industrial Revolution was a big deal. Granted, if I went back and lived through the change, I would have. So these things are hard in the abstract, which is part of why I asked the question: is it purely an intellectual thing or something like?
Oh yeah. So yeah. By the way, on this, I think people should all be history majors, and this helps a bit. Where like, as part of the intellectual thing, you go back and you read stuff, and 100 years ago, there was people still felt like the end of the world was coming. Chemical weapons in World War I, and there's like motor cars everywhere, and societal issues looming on the horizon that you don't know how to solve. America is only 250 years old, right? It's like people have been just like trying to make it work like the whole time, and abundance is like a new thing. But on the rational aspect, then if you look just a few years out in the future, and you grant that the AI becoming a bigger deal has been going on longer than you expected. So maybe one world is like, you see ChatGPT, you see GPT-4, and you think, okay, this is obviously very impressive, obviously beat my expectations, but I'm not ready to sort of just like go full straight line up and to the right on the graph, because you're just like more of an empiricist. You haven't seen enough data points. Then you just think, okay, maybe it will keep improving for a few generations. But if it plateaued, right, it wouldn't be that weird. And so you're just like waiting for more evidence. If you grant that, like now you could say there's either 5 years, or there's 10 years, or 15 years, or 70 years of like continual dots on the plot that keep going up and to the right. Then the rational thing that I'm trying out to like pill people is like, how many more doublings do you think we need before this like total physical transformation happens, or like bigger kinds of transformation happens? And so even if you think the current level of investment is unsustainable, like amount of capex invested, or revenue, or something like that, we'll just know the answer in the next 5 to 10 years. Like right now, we're in this sort of compute crunch because we need to build a lot of infrastructure. But even if the rate of growth slows, if it just continues, either like AI investment is going to exceed world GDP, which means it's going to have to crash, or we're going to have to grow world GDP because of the AI, or this will reach some like crazy form of super intelligence, and all this crazy stuff will happen, or there will be some hopefully not, but some terrible like world historical.
Right.
Geopolitical conflict, tragedy, or something.
This is kind of the point you make at the beginning of the piece, though, around the Peter Thiel quote about Elon. For the people who haven't read it, like Thiel's point is that Elon's talking about we're gonna have billion robots, and we're gonna have all of these national debt problems, and Thiel is critiquing those two things aren't mutually exclusive along the lines of what you just said. Granted, your point is that perhaps we did get the robots and the debt.
Yeah, but basically the intellectual side of the equation looking forward is like I'm trying to tell you like it's gotten so big now that we can rest easy. We will know the answer in the next 5 years. Like
it will either implode or we will enter a new epoch.
Like all of us are wondering what's going to happen. Or there are these people who are coping with like AI is big, but it's going to like stay this big, and things don't change very much, or history has ended. So things just generally nothing ever happens. Things just generally stay the way things are. And I'm like the Financial Times chart where like one line is going up and one line is going down. Like we'll just know the answer. Like it's gotten big enough to where this will happen very soon, and so it's very exciting. And I don't think it takes that much of a leap of once you accept that AI is like a real thing today, and that it has changed a lot in the last few years. That we'll just know what happens. It's sort of like knowing like a pandemic level event is on the horizon. We just don't know if it will be very good or bad.
I don't think that's going to inspire much confidence in people. That last line,
right? But maybe this exercise is just to get people like convinced about the moving history. Rather than,
Well, so there's one line in the piece that I think is really poignant. You say at one point that the curve is exponential. So if it happens, it doesn't matter when. And then you go on to say, what does it matter if it's 2 or 20 years away? The only change that's mattered to my AI timelines is that I used to think it wasn't going to happen in my lifetime, and now I think it is. Can you talk about how that view has most changed your research, the way you think? That cut on what you just said would say, we're not going to have the debt implosion thing, or we're not going to have the economic implosion thing in the next 5 years. We are going to it's going to happen. We're moving up the exponential. If we are moving up the exponential at all, like we're going to clear the jump maybe. But why is that framing of it? I mean, obviously in one sense, it's just fundamental in that you're going to get to live to experience it. But I think there's a subtler frame on it, which is that like, if we're on the exponential, it's not slowing down. Like,
maybe I would think about it, and this is like extremely relevant for like everyone's like personal life, whether or not you're in tech, whether or not you're in AI. Just like
granted, the 2 or 20 matters. The 2 or the 20 years, like that is a big difference.
It definitely matters, but overwhelmingly most important of all is like both are you on the exponential or not?
Yes.
Do you recognize that, or like if you can just do something to like tie your ship to the exponential versus just like knowing it is like you just probably broader make like better decisions or something like that.
Well, so sorry to interrupt, but like I think that's quite an interesting question, which is one other meta reason why people aren't able to feel or aren't feeling the wave crash over them is, even if I do look at the math, which is just look at the scaling laws, like the root point you make over this whole piece is that we're on this like long journey, maybe arguably back to Moore's law or even further, which is just like do the math. One reason perhaps that we don't feel it is I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do with the fact that I'm what does hitching your wagon to that, hitching yourself to that wagon, what does that even mean? Like, go work in AI? Does it?
Yeah, I think like any of these specific things are probably going to be wrong. And I was talking to a friend about like there's one term, 19 uncertainty, but I like better the Donald Rumsfeld. He goes up to the podium and he's like, there are no knowns, there are known unknowns, and there's unknown unknowns. And then in the unknown situation, you really don't know what the optimal strategy is. So based on just like some deep preference you have, you might be like extra greedy or extra risk averse. But both of those seem just as good to me. I just think that yeah, maybe within AI worlds, where we're convinced that this is going to be a big deal, we spend a lot of time talking about, is it going to be 2 or 20 years? Which, like you said, is super important. It will like
Right.
totally change like how society is able to adapt well to it or not. But then for someone else, like, or maybe kind of like the defaults, like haven't really thought about it, reaction is just, okay, I just really hope this doesn't happen or something like that. But maybe if you look at all the beliefs you have, or which conclusion you draw, if you just like look at the evidence and apply your own priors to like how you would weigh the evidence, you might come to the uncomfortable conclusion of like, this will happen in the next 20 years, in the next 50 years, just like sometime in your lifetime, right? And it definitely matters when, but I think it does give a lot of clarity to things. Like I was mentioning, it just like accelerates you asking the question of what do you value.
Yes.
And so now you could say, okay, if you're like a young person, I need to get a job, I need to save enough money, I need to figure out a bunch of things in my life, right? And then when you're young, you think you're going to live forever, and you never really think about the longer term things. But I think the fact that this phenomenon exists, even if it hasn't really physically affected your life at all, you're like totally far away from AI world or something. This is sort of like telling you there's going to be like a pandemic level of change in your lifetime. A totally valid question. What am I supposed to do about that, right? But maybe one thing is just like it just becomes a lot easier to stop caring about the petty things, because you're like, I've just received this prognosis of like, yeah, things are just going to be very different. In 5 years, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, I wish I didn't care so much about, what other people thought of me, or I wish I, spent more time with my friends or something like that.
It does feel on some, the more I think about this, it does feel on some level like if I told you were going to die in a year, or anyone, they were going to die in a year, especially if they were under the age of 80.
Yeah.
I suspect they would really change their behavior. If I told you you were going to die in 3 weeks, like, but if I told you you're going to die in 7 years, like, yes, intellectually, I think I would, versus 40.
Yeah.
But like, we're really bad
Yeah.
at letting abstract, remotely far away things, letting the wave crash over us. Perhaps a question would be that,
and unfortunately, I think this is a really good analogy, and I'm just like really desperately trying to find like the positive versions of these analogies. There's like you receive a
it's not
terminal,
necessarily death.
Yeah, you receive a terminal diagnosis slash like the whole of society goes through a pandemic. But I'm like, I really do believe that AI is going to go well, or I think it's way more likely to go well than not. And so while these analogies like work really well because they really hit on some like sense of urgency, or make you feel like the stakes, that sort of thing. The kind of like, imagine you will win the lottery in like next year or something like that, or like,
Yes,
or like
yes.
you'll
But even that, by the way, if I was going to win the lottery in 3 weeks, my behavior would be very different if I knew I was going to.
Right.
So
right. And so the key to like finding such an analogy, like you as an individual winning the lottery, or like society as a whole winning like a society wide lottery, this kind of like how to make that more compelling, or how to communicate that. I think the whole field is also struggling with this, where like like the bleak things just like hit home more in some way, unfortunately. But yeah, like whatever you would do there, it's like imagine you're going to be fabulously wealthy in a few years. You like you said, you would be acting very differently, or you would receive some kind of new clarity about what you care about, what you value.
Yes.
or you would just know like, oh, I need to really quickly start thinking about what I value, like what makes me human, things like that. I think the labs have achieved this. That's why they're starting all these organizations thinking about all of this, right? The transition, and also after the technology is more stable.
One kind of major implication of this is that the people who do know this, who have the secret or not so secret, people working in AI, whatever, need to be better at talking about it. It's clear that that's something you think a lot about, both in your personal writing as well as what you kind of urge people on. There were 2 quotes that I picked out on this that I liked. The first, you say, some people are quick to disavow themselves from doomers or accelerationists. But what else is on offer? Not much if research engineers continue to see myth-making as a chore, second class, a lesser use of their time to quote-unquote real technical work. They will keep working in a world under myth. They keep complaining is inferior. And then slightly more fun, you quote Tolkien as he says, fantasy is a natural human activity. It certainly does not destroy or even insult reason, and it does not either blunt the appetite for nor obscure the perception of scientific verity. On the contrary, the keener and clearer is the reason, the better fantasy will make. What makes for good myth, maybe to start?
Yeah. I think there is a really good myth specifically for people who are likely to become AI researchers, right? Like all these labs, they have lots of very talented people working for them, and they could, I don't know, go into finance and make a lot more money or something like that. But partly because it's like the other mission driven people, but like the mission and the mission of whether it's touching the fabric of reality, understanding the true nature of reality, or it's impacting a lot of people's lives, like curing cancer and eliminating poverty, hopefully eliminating inequality. All of these, that's like a myth. That's like in a good way, a mission that really drives people. That would
in
make
part
people,
it's such a strong myth, perhaps in part that it could be part of why these people aren't thinking about that much myth making otherwise, because it's just like so intrinsic and obvious to us. It's so catnipy to a certain kind of person.
Yeah.
That they're just like, how could you care about anything else? This is the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. And also you know the myth of like, oh, you are on the Manhattan Project, you are Oppenheimer, you are contributing to this like world historical event individually. That also works. So I think in that way the myth making is going quite well. It's just that this is definitely like too simplistic of a view, that like there's not enough like understanding of the diversity of the fantasies that would appeal to like more people, or that more people have. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's something like change is just really uncomfortable because like uncertainty is really uncomfortable, and just generally people don't really like uncertainty. So maybe the kind of like find the perfect myth or find the Steve Jobs for AI is kind of just like a really hard problem, or really hard to do. That could be part of it. I think it's definitely worth working on and thinking about, though, and that right now the best myths are directed at the people like most likely to receive it, and then you receive it, you might join AI. As well as AI becomes bigger, it becomes more inclusive, more pluralist, more normal, so to say.
Two questions. Number one would be, in that quote you reference doomers and accelerationists and what else is on offer. I don't think you're a doomer. I feel pretty confident on that. And maybe you're an accelerationist by some definition, certainly to a normal person. But I don't get the sense that you're like a pure accelerationist. I think you're working on this in part because you think it's the most important thing. Do you have a sense of other narratives that are on offer?
Yeah, so this quote was from a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was the year where maybe like EAC was coined or something like that, and then in my mind that was the year like newspapers started to use the word doomer, and so I chose those two as like these are like the most prominent myths of the time. But
they are kind of. I mean,
yeah, they're like definitely ingrained in the water still. I think there are new myths, more complicated ones being developed. I would agree with you. I think if I had to choose between these two ends, I would say I'm more of an accelerationist because I think it will go well. And in the same way, I'm trying to find an analogy that's like positive. I think you should really focus on the solving cancer like 10 years earlier kind of thing being like really good, rather than the kind of trying to avoid some bad thing that you think will happen or earlier. But these myths have also gotten more inclusive, and so there's like different strains of accelerationism now, right?
The second part of my question was going to be, you've also spent time, as I understand it, with a number of people who are closer, for better, like a better way of putting it, closer to the policy side of the world. I think certainly in the UK and maybe also in the US. Do you have a sense of what types of myths or stories or even just simple messaging have been or will be most resonant or clarifying for those people? I mean, it feels more relevant than ever, at least in the US. And some of it's about persuasion, but some of it's just actually about like, I'll let you decide how you want to react to this. You might be anti, but I need you to feel the wave. You make some point somewhere, and granted, I don't think this is that recent, but it wasn't that long ago either, that like there's a few people in the Trump administration, a few people in Saudi, and maybe like a couple other senior politicians in the world who have felt the wave.
Yeah, not my point, but I was quoting someone else.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think that one, like there's like two maybe reassuring things. One is this is not really change in the thing I wrote where I cited this person. Like you should frame it as like we are keeping a promise that we previously made, and the way we're keeping it or the technology that we use to keep it is different, but broadly like we have a promise that is the social contract, and we will uphold it by distributing the benefits of this technology to everyone, make sure no one's left behind.
Right.
But fundamentally, the important stuff has not changed. Like you're living your life. You get a new house, but everyone is still going to get a house. There's the change will not be so disruptive that or so uncertain that you need to really worry deeply. And the second thing that could be reassuring is volatility is good. We've always had change, and change has always been good. And this is like you grow up in a country with like 10% GDP growth for like over decades, and you just watch your where you live turn into like a field, into like skyscrapers, and all of a sudden you have like these really fast bullet trains or something like that. And it's like, yes, there's a lot of change, but broadly overall it's good for you. And I think it works for America too. Like America, only 250 years old. You look at like some guy who's alive today, and they're like just like 3 generations back was like 9th president of the United States or something like that. It's just not that much time. And for most of American history, so much change, right? It's like so much happened. For most of American history, America was not like the global superpower, right? And so that's a lot of change, and telling this myth where you are like empowered to like make this change or benefit from this change. It's like we would hate it if we had like a extremely classist society where nothing ever changed, and you're just kind of like like stuck in whichever like social standing that you have. But in a world, you're part of a country of like very dynamic people who are like starting businesses and like doing all this cool stuff, and you're like making the change yourself, and then you will benefit from this change, like as has happened for all of history, and in fact, it's part of your national identity that as like a person of this country, you're like really good at adapting to change, and like change has always been really good for you. I think that could be reassuring as well.
Currently, it certainly seems that there is something structural about AI and maybe just modern kind of techno-capitalism that is creating a smaller and smaller group of really powerful actors. Maybe a different cut on this would be like, that's one justifiable concern. There's a different take you have somewhere, and I think you're kind of referencing somebody else's idea, but it's the person who's talking about the French Revolution versus the replacement of the English monarch. And it's almost like, it's definitely a little Machiavellian or something, but it is an interesting sort of like way to think, like for whoever's trying to change the world, you best keep some of these promises. You say, I think this is you, the AI industry has all kinds of French revolutionary tendencies. In our own self-conception, we're bold, inevitable, and on the right side of history. At our worst, we're ignoring our inheritance to remake the world from abstract rational principles, dismissive of accumulated experience, and impatient that no one else is keeping up. I think we're meeting a resistance to that impulse that is earned.
Yeah. So if I could go back to my classic cop-out answer of like both have to be true at the same time.
Please.
It's like, well, I really believe in like competition being good, and if you want to prevent really serious like power concentration, there just needs to be a lot of competition. So a lot of unpopular decisions that labs have made. People complain about them. Maybe they made these various decisions because they feel like they're in a position of strength, and they're like, we think this would be best to do with the models, and if we do this, the market can't do very much about it, so we're just going to do it. But then because there's competition, maybe that gets walked back in the end. Maybe labs would do like other things that they're not doing, such as we're just gonna develop this RSI AGI thing by ourselves and just keep all the innovations to ourselves, right? But because there's a market, that's not going to happen. Or like there's a lot of competition between different models. So like one company's idea of like what is moral and good, and how much to defer to the user versus like how much input the model should have to the user. The model telling you like something is wrong or something. All of this, I think, competition is generally good. But then of course that means like maybe this like pulls the future closer to us a bit faster. Right. And you're like, wait, but wait, that's bad. Both are kind of need to be true and happen at the same time. So yeah.
I appreciate you muddling through this with me. I mean, part of the meta thing that I think I'm feeling as I've been thinking about this and through this conversation is just like, it's all further case to be made that like the more we can make a plurality of different types of people, Americans, whatever, politicians, whatever, to feel the wave and thus really deeply engage with this. There's a tension there, of course, because one response to that might just be like, we need to stop the AI. But the best possible future to me seems roughly like as many influential and regular people as possible care about this stuff. They have the like optimistic understanding of like what the technology is, but they also aren't just putting it off as this pie in the sky thing to say like, we have 2 to 20 years to solve some of these problems, and it's going to take the whole gang to like really
but we should focus on it. It will take the whole gang. Like all the labs I think are extremely sincere and well intentioned of like what we know is that it's going to be nuts.
Yes.
And we're not professional economists.
Yes.
Well, some of us are. Not as many as like the whole field of economics or the whole field of philosophy or the whole field of whatever would make to go well for like all these different areas of human inquiry. And we're just kind of like creating these things to like these organizations to like think about these questions because they are important questions. But yeah, some kind of main goal is to like get more people into this project, and it will take the whole gang. And if you don't like that, big tech is like deciding all these things, then you
get involved.
Like and you can't consistently hold that like this AI thing is a scam, and also like, oh, please stop like disrupting my field. Like,
yes maybe just briefly, I know we briefly touched on it, but why aren't you a doomer?
So I think I am still more of an empiricist, and therefore like there are a lot of risks I do worry about, but and maybe this requires a definition of doomer, but a lot of the risks are very like humans are very involved in them, like malicious humans using the AI for bad purposes. I think like generally characterizes the risks I'm worried about,
rather than the paper clipping, whatever, we lose control scenario.
And some other general assumptions I'm making are like there will be competition, or there is just going to be a lot of degrees of freedom for like a lot of different things that you can't predict ahead of time to happen, or like avenues of these like threat vectors. And so given that we live in this very decentralized world, that we've made choices in society to like support the benefits of the decentralized world, then you really need to lean into it. And so if it is a spectrum of like accelerating versus like slowing down, then I think like most people are good. Most people are not malicious. And of course, there's like offense defense balances. But the kind of solution that what I imagine a like vague definition of doomer would support, I feel like would be counterproductive.
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm not at all saying the risks aren't real. I'm saying like I put a much greater weight on these like um um more like human being involved kind of risks,
Right.
and that the best solution to them, like I wrote in the piece responding to Dara's piece, is very decentralized, very like a lot of good people like in a like a very decentralized way, thinking about the
Muddling
solutions
through.
to this. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a cut on this that's sort of like the cost of progress and the cost of liberty is some risk. And we have like taken that trade for a long time, and it has paid off really well.
And I would add that the non-liberty is a bigger risk.
Yes, yes. One last thing on this, a quote I liked, and maybe just another opportunity for the wave to crash over people a little bit on like compute and scaling. You say the biggest mistake people make when they make the case for AI is that they say it's different this time. It's not different this time because it's always been different. There hasn't been any constant normal trend ever, and all we've done is be optimistic that we'll muddle through. Nothing is truly inevitable, certainly not progress, and progress too might stop tomorrow. All things considered, though, it would be stranger if it did than if it didn't. Perhaps you even make this point, but I couldn't help reading this thinking about like, not only does this apply to scaling laws or possibly even computing and Moore's law, but like maybe all of human progress,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even the trend of complexity in this little corner of the universe that we're in. You also noted your frustrations with the Foundation series.
Yeah.
Speaking of determinism, how do you think, given maybe a quote like that, which is holding a lot, like how do you think about, on one hand, the sense of inevitability or determinism, and also will or agency? Or
Yeah. So both are true at the same time. But more seriously, it's like well, when you look at the trend of like 2% GDP growth for since we invented invention or something like that, and if you zoom in really closely and you look really closely, it's like all these people trying very hard and doing very different things every
Yes.
time and very weird things every time, and then only when you zoom out, it looks like
we
there's
call
this
it a
trend.
law.
Yeah. And so also, if you believe that AI is general in some way or is like extremely complementary to humans in some way, it's like these human laser beams that we're focusing on problems, and as like a general law or a general rule, we know that if we focus this human laser beam on this problem for some amount of time, we're going to get something out of it. And of course, it's not guaranteed. It's like probably you're just like rolling dice or something. But probably you put enough laser beams, humans, on something, you get something
We
out
even
of it.
see this with things like the space race in the 60s or COVID vaccines. Like there is something about human. We put the tractor.
And individually too, like
Yes.
as
The will to power. Yes.
as a researcher or as a creative, you're like, oh damn, like am I really gonna be able to think of a next piece? But if you just block aside like 10 hours, you're gonna get something out of that 10
Necessity
hours.
is the mother of invention.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit more than you expected, a bit less than you expected. But in that way, everything is different. Everything is like it could definitely be zero. So that aspect is like extremely contingent, not determined. And then when you zoom out, it looks more determined. But then like it's both like determined and also contingent. The thing about the Foundation series is like I just think there's like no character development in there because there's like these hundreds of years of time jumps, and so you only get like a character for like a chapter or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think the idea is very cool and very important, and like a science fiction book should like really lean into its like one idea, right? Like I think it's hugely impactful that and it may be captured like something about the time it was written in as well, that people imagine like, oh, we have like Newton's laws, we're like discovering all sorts of laws, maybe we'll discover like laws to everything, right? And that's like also a very old idea.
Amazing point.
And to have like a work of fiction that really explores that is really great. So I'm not like anti-Foundation just because it has that idea. I think that relies on the reader to, not read that and totally be like go off the deep end on that end of like you read that and you're like, okay, well now I'm going to discover like the true
The
laws of
theory of
history.
nature.
Yeah. But it's like a data point that you take in your
Mm,
own inner like balanced everything is true sort of
mm,
like idea of like yeah, that's just like another character in the pluralist universe.
mm. I want to talk about personal implications of where we might be going in the era to come. First of all, similar note to what we just spoke about. Um, I wanted to read two excerpts. First, from your 2025 letter. You say, later you'll think, who could possibly compete? How could your cleverness be worth anything more than a hill of beans against an artifact that cost millions and concentrates within it the cleverness of billions of humans? How arrogant to think yourself clever enough to outpace a factor of 1,000, then another 1,000, then another 1,000. This is what they mean when they say general purpose technology. Perhaps a slightly wordy, but I think very good articulation of the super laser beam. Meanwhile, in your 2022 letter, the first one at least available to me, there's a slightly different tone, I think. You say, some people think that there are few, if any, scientific breakthroughs remaining. They think research progress is hard to measure. Ideas are getting harder to find. Maybe all the good ones have already been had. Maybe some extant thing is all you need. I wouldn't be so sure. Marvin Minsky, luminary of our field, predicted, quote, within a generation, the problem of creating artificial intelligence will substantially be solved. End quote. That was in the late 60s. He joins a distinguished class, Lord Kelvin, in 1897. Quote, there is nothing new to be discovered in physics now. All that remains is more and more precise measurement, end quote. Cicero reported that Aristotle thought he had just about completed philosophy and that it would surely be completed a short time after his death. Don't be them. Here, actually, take the long view. We're coming back to it over and over again. But there is a paradox there. And one is empowering to the human spirit, and the other is like deeply, deeply humbling, if not kind of disappointing or even sad. Um, Maybe the best way to ask the question would be, do you still believe in the Zhengdong of 2022?
Yeah, I can see the tension there. But I think it is consistent in the um reason why you are trying to be clever when you do the research and when you're trying to compete against the models. Where if you're just doing it for like some instrumental purpose, like we do in a lot of the things we do in daily
Yeah.
life and
Yeah.
errands and for our job, it's like we need to get this thing done, and here are the things that we do to get there. And in a job, you might think like, oh, I'm just like having a blast like every day doing this thing, right? And that's like all that can all be consistent and all be great in that. If you want the end goal itself, then you can use a tool to like accelerate the middle part that maybe you don't care so much about and reach the end goal. But let's say in terms of like software engineering, you also like the process itself, right? Like you like the puzzle solving aspect of the engineering. Maybe it is a bit disheartening that you don't find it as useful to other humans when there's this tool that could do it, right? But that one, you can still like explore this kind of puzzle solving aspect yourself in the same way that like athletes do or like
Sure.
game players do.
Autotelic.
Yeah,
Right.
games being a very like self-imposed limitations kind of like can I solve these problems within these limitations kind of thing, or like as an artist, and now you can do like software engineering as an artist or something like that. And the other aspect that I think is new, that's more consistent with the earlier like more human empowering thing, is both that there's just so much stuff to do, and that part of my earlier answer about getting AGI will not be what it's cracked up to be is that yeah, if you just think of like the amount of things we will demand or the amount of things that we will explore, like just how big the universe is and how weird it is, there will always be something to do. And scarcity in the definition of like, will the cost be zero? Will we really have infinite of it? We won't reach that. We'll just do everything faster. We'll like do more things. Get even more niches and like write even more fiction or something like that, and create even more universes for ourselves. The second way that there will always be stuff to do is just like something being very personal. So everything about you, like you maybe like to do puzzles or you like to create this sort of art. Just the fact that you are doing it yourself is also very new. So like whether you do it with AI or you do it by yourself, or people are fans of your work just because it is you, right? Right now, friends will read your stuff because they want to know what you think. Like they want to know your favorite flavor of ice cream, not the LLM's objective optimal best flavor of ice cream. And many people have written about this as well. And so the personal stuff is always like your domain is going to be new. And Scott Alexander, I think, has written a sort of like a very good post, or like that makes you feel this particular wave crashing over you of like, imagine in the future if there are like people in other galaxies and they think they like read all the history of like what was the creation of powerful AI like, and they're like every single character that was like even marginally related is like a celebrity. Like, oh, this was their favorite form of ice cream. This was like a blog post they wrote, and it reminds me of in the Bible, the first like European convert to Christianity. Her name is Lydia, and she's like just remembered forever because she is just like living her life, and is like part of this like world historical story. So the personal is new. There's just infinite demand for everything. There's only some particular things that maybe because they're accelerated by tools or something, you would do it differently. But I just see everything as like expansion of options available.
I agree with much of that. And yet, part of the implication in that 2022 quote, I think, is about like doing things of substance. And granted, I think relational life is of substance, but in the abstract sense or in the grand sense, it would be like discovery, research, like truly getting closer to know. In some sense, there is like a humbling in a positive way, the idea that actually like we know 0.00001% of what there is to know. We can know so much more. But that isn't really something you mentioned. And then I guess at a more local level, most people aren't going to discover scientific theorems or whatever. I do think there's just a sense that like for many people, it's hard to have meaning without some kind of meaningful work.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious how you would take those two on top of what you said.
Recently, Rebecca Lowe wrote this blog post. She's a philosopher about some broader definition of work, where this idea of like replacing jobs, like but what even is a job? And I think she and I would agree with you that like everyone needs to have some kind of purpose, like. Maybe it's just relationships, but maybe it's not just relationships, and you just need to feel like you are doing something that you find meaningful, or you are contributing to like something larger than yourself, like community or like a bigger project or something like that. But I think that can be very broadly defined, and I'm curious if you think that people's idea of that can change or not. So maybe with the invention of some tools for agriculture or for making clothes or something like that, like previously our culture would place much higher weight on like being able to hunt or being able to farm, or like there's something real about like waking up early in the morning and doing this like work that's like real work, and yes. maybe even today we like idealize this idea of like real work instead of like spreadsheets or something.
I was at dinner last night, one of those open kitchens, and I was like, wow, it'd be kind of cool to do work in a kitchen for a little while. Like you remember.
So they were building a apartment building next to the office a few years ago, and a colleague and I would joke like, we're just like coding, but if you want to see any real engineering happen, just like look out that window.
I think I agree, and yet like go back, take one single thread throughout all of human history. To my knowledge, certainly all of like known history, there has been a frontier to explore. Perhaps, if anything, like the last 30, 40 years has been like an anomaly where it's like the frontier was the internet. Now, obviously, it's extended to space, but like some people will be totally fine in relational context. Some people will be totally fine making good pants, making music, whatever. Like I make a podcast. But there is a sense that there is some deep human thing that it's hard for me to imagine going away, at least as a species, of our desire to like have quests and grand adventures and to be of consequence. And perhaps that last bit is the part that like was made up all along, or where we were deceiving ourselves all along. and maybe this kind of goes hand in hand with a broader question of like on some time horizon, do we get superseded in the local context of what intelligence means over here?
Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say like an assumption that your question is like there's this space of like questing that your quest could like do this, that there's like all this unknown. And because of AI is just like taking a lot of this like space of questing. It's like 90% of all the questing could be done that could be
theoretically 100% of the globally relevant questing.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll still have locally relevant questing.
Right. Yeah. So
or maybe we never had globally relevant.
Yeah. So I guess maybe could you talk about this assumption a bit? Because my assumption would be the idea of like 100% of the globally relevant questing would itself need like some justification, or it's like your burden of proof to show, because as long as like everything isn't like instantly completed instantly at zero cost or something, let's say your quest is like, oh, I want to go to that galaxy over there and I want to explore everything, and I'm taking all these robots and like starships with me, like when you play a video game, like everything is done for you, right? You still make these like vague decisions, and your choice of like, this is who I want to be, this is my identity, is like still your choice. There's just still like choices that literally only you can make. That
but is that true for like science? Maybe put it a different way. Well, a few thoughts. Number one, the quote I read, which is like, your cleverness. What do you say? Later you'll think, who could possibly compete? How your cleverness could be worth anything more than a hill of beans against an artifact that costs millions and costs thousands and thousands and thousands. You give a different example of the idea we talked about it. AlphaFold or AlphaGo being, is it actually creative? It doesn't really matter. A third thing I would say is like, you are someone, I feel quite confident, who could just go enjoy themselves all the time, right, and eat food and visit art, and you do a lot of that, fortunately. And yet you are also like, no, I have to work on this. And maybe part of it is like, there's only a few more years, but we want to matter. We want to matter.
Right. Maybe it is true that there is some kind of like objective definition of what morality is, or like just like objective answer to everything, or like when you discover like true nature of reality, there's this like theory of everything, there's one equation or something like that. Maybe that is the case. And maybe to take what you're saying like really, really seriously, I think that if we were to find such a thing, and we were to all very deeply be convinced by that, that would be that would be concerning, or that would open us up to exactly the kind of worry that you bring of like, everything is determined. There is nothing else that's really mattered. We've done 100% of the things that really mattered. You could think of it like that. You could also think of it as like, this is the completion of the game, like the Minecraft. You've killed the Ender Dragon. Credits start scrolling, and there's this nice poem written there. And that would be like the completion of the game of the universe. And in Demis's biography with Sebastian Mallaby, he's like, once I know that, then I will shuffle off my mortal coil, or he says something like that. Maybe that's one way to salvage it. I agree that in that situation though, that would open this up to your concerns. But I think we are just so far away from that, and that even if our lifespans end up being much longer, I think a lot of it will just look like, okay, I've decided to take my starships and go to that galaxy, and I'm gonna make a bunch of choices along the way that are like really I find quite meaningful.
I think that's right. I think on some level, there is a fear and a plausible reality that we stop being the most significant actors in the discovery of knowledge and the exploration of the universe.
I think this is all just relative to like what previously culture, or like what we grew up in, and maybe find it hard to change about our own preferences. Like if we grew up, finding a lot of meaning in like fixing up our house, or like like tending to our livestock or something like that, then I think I mean every single generation thinks like, this is like the kids these days, like everything's getting worse and changing.
Yeah.
And now another way in which it's not different this time because it's always been different is that these kinds of changes are just happening faster and faster. Where like yes, the short term can be a lifetime, but also it was great when the short term was longer than a lifetime or longer than the characteristic length of a career. But now, if you need to transition in like a space that's like shorter than the average human career, then that's like a step change in like new problems, right?
Yeah.
Like if you only had to do it once because it's like in the middle of your career, fine. And so in that way it's different. Maybe now you're like, okay, this uncertainty is really worrying. I'm gonna have to change my life to adapt to this uncertainty. And then like 3 years pass and you're like, I did it. Like I'm like found new sources of meaning, found new things that I find are like just matter just as much as what I previously did, then bam, the AI can do that now, and you have to do it again. Yeah, so maybe another just like general personal thing of like being a lot more okay with change in like a meta way.
A quote from you. In my time as a research engineer so far, I have enjoyed many, too many to count, meditations on research taste. My only contribution to the literature is this. Are you having fun? My question to you is, are you having fun?
I am having a blast. Are you?
I am. I am. I think part of this future we're talking about is like how much fun do you have or can you have by surfing the waves of change? And there are times where I feel afraid, and there are times where I feel confused, or like if you ever respond to that with a desire for inaction, I think you can spiral in the negative way. In some weird sense, it relates a little bit to like the classic Dan Nabil, like do more and you'll get more energy thing.
Yeah.
And so I think there are ways to respond to all of this and be paralyzed, and there are ways to respond and be like, as you said, there's so many galaxies to explore.
Yeah. The galaxies I think are still quite far, but the having fun is like there's always this like type 2 fun of like people say you go on a hiking trip, or there's like some experience, you have a lot of uncertainty, and then you look back and there's some nostalgia, or like you were glad to have gone through the experience.
Yes.
Of course the experience has to go well, right? Like of course you can't ignore the if you're hugely uncertain in the future, because a lot of the things that you relied on that your life depends on is like now in flight. That is really bad. But that I think it is a privilege to live through interesting times.
Are you having type 2 fun or type 1 fun?
Um,
I was
think-
recently asked this.
yeah. I think it is a lot of type 2 fun with very short feedback. Where like you reach the end where you like look back.
You're climbing lots of hills.
Yeah, like wow. Even now, I think to a few years ago when ChatGPT came out, and I thought, imagine the first time I tried ChatGPT, and before that, the first time I tried language, some kind of language model that was not ChatGPT, or like imagining before that trying like image models like Dolly, just like how different everything was then. It's like, wow, did I really live through this and see it happen, and like talk to people at the time it was happening. That all feels so far away, even though it wasn't that close.
What do you mean by, and why do you identify as a consumer?
Yeah. So I was thinking of this when you were asking me if I'm having fun, and by consumer, I on one hand mean like the character you read about in your economics textbook. There's producers and there's consumers. I'm just like I'm the consumer. I'm just like consuming the stuff. And then a broader definition of like I really mean like everything, like not just a nice restaurant, like a good movie, but also like rarer forms of consumption. Like I feel extremely privileged to know some of the much better AI researchers than me, like big characters in the fields. The people who will map onto Oppenheimer and Rutherford and all
The
these.
aliens in the future galaxy we'll be reading about.
Yeah, or like later you read history textbooks and these people who are like characters, and to like know how they feel about certain things, to like have being able to get their thoughts on something, like that's just extremely rare form of consumption that I feel very privileged to be able to partake in.
Mm. Is research a type of consumption?
No, I think it's production. Like, you can get satisfaction and fun in discovering a fact and like keeping it to yourself, and that can be a form of consumption. But producing is like you've discovered this fact, and it's like very cheap to share it, so you should share it. One thing Tyler Cowen has said before, I think it was him, and I've like just stolen it. I don't know if he still holds himself to this, but he's like, I just produce so that they let me consume. Like, and we're both selfish in this
I
particular
was going
way.
to say, so at least you're producing a little bit. Most people's problem is that they would lean over too much into consumption. Perhaps in your milieu, and certainly in San Francisco, it's the inverse. People only work. But yeah,
Yeah.
how do you strike the balance?
Yeah. Maybe there is not a perfect balance, because I definitely have this like Protestant work ethic sort of thing, or like I need to deserve being alive every day, and that I should probably just like be producing 100% of the time just to deserve being alive, and deserve being as lucky as I am. Part of that is selfish in the way of like they won't let me talk to these really cool AI researchers if I don't produce anything, right? Like I'm just not going to be. I'm
Okay,
just
so some consumption is unlocked.
yeah. It's like you've interviewed President Bush's personal assistant, right?
Correct.
Like that's like extremely rarefied consumption, or I so look up to that, or like must be so cool. You get to try out on Air Force One, like what kind of special meal they have that day or something. You get the little napkin with the presidential seal on it. But they don't let anybody do that, right? Like you've got to be producing something, either like writing as a White House correspondent, or like guarding the president, or be the president.
Yeah.
Like that's how you get to consume that. And so
I guess that's kind of what I do here.
mm,
I'm,
mm.
I'm, I'm producing just a little bit, so I get to be in the room. I'll take it.
Yeah, and it's super fun, and maybe this is how the market works, or is like you want to consume this thing, well then you have to produce the thing that's like, this is the price of consuming this, is like producing this thing. Um, I also think one should not be totally selfish, right? And production is good. Uh, Otherwise, we would not have all of the wonderful
Well,
things in the
soon
world.
the automated laser beams are going to be
Right.
doing it all
And
for us.
and and for most of the time, people wrote all that code by hand. Like that was a lot of production. And I bet even
God
if they
bless Compound.
enjoyed it, they might have been writing like slightly different code that wasn't all for one goal and purpose of being able to consume better. So.
What do you say to probably people who are more likely to be your peers, who are like feel that there's no way they could possibly take time off or take a vacation in these pressing times?
Well,
Maybe to take the other side of that question.
yeah, a bunch of things. So, because we're on an exponential, now is better than ever. Now is in fact the last time. Second, all of the normal reasons why it's good. Like humans still operate on a certain time scale, and if we are packed end to end every day, we really aren't doing any thinking, and we're probably just like inundated by all the noise and information, and it will literally be worse for you. The whole thing I could say about like mental health, and that being like the most important thing. And so if you're thinking about this, you should just probably take a break. And it's just like win across the board for everything. Practically, you could vacation for a year and come back, and your $20 a month subscription to AI will just be like 10 times more effective.
Yeah, but what about the people who are working at these places? I mean, I've definitely talked to a number of friends in AI who are like, I literally can't imagine taking a day off.
If you're having fun, that's great. I'm just saying, like, I don't think the cost would really be that much. And yes, I'm sure everybody is like contributing their own subjectivity, and like the whole project is very slightly different,
But
and
you don't matter that
because
much.
of no, but you do in the way that, like, if you take a break, the economy without AI will still grow at 2%, right? And both are true. You do matter and you don't matter.
I think that's right. A quote from you, I think it's possible it's 2025 letter or one of the more recent essays. Jonathan Malesic in May reminded us that AI cannot teach us how we want to live. He writes of the humanities, I will sacrifice some length of my days to add depth to another person's experience of the rest of theirs. Many did this for me. The work is slow. Its results often go unseen for years, but it is no gimmick. I think we've hit this point probably plenty, but do you have any advice for people on how to live?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful quote by him, and I quoted it at length, and it's a great piece. When he wrote that post, he maybe laments AI a lot more than I do,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to include it as like a maybe to contrast some of the more optimistic about AI stuff. But when I read that, I think of it as like that is sort of the choice of making something matter in like the thought experiment you gave me earlier, where there's this writing thing. Maybe you were doing it so that you could write things that other people would enjoy reading, and now there's this machine that can write things that other people enjoy reading more than what you were doing, and so that would feel like a loss of like something that matters to you. At the same time, you and all your audience and everyone who's like in this project of writing and reading things together can decide, like, okay, but it's only going to matter if like we wrote it, right? uh, and we're going to make this choice, and it matters because it's hard. Like, it's not easy for me to write this thing, and it's easy. It would be super easy for me, and other people would know it would be easy for me if I just like prompted the machine and then like I output the machine thing. So the value comes from the fact that I spent a part of my short and precious life to write this thing for you, even if by some eval it's worse. And then you've like created meaning. You've created like real work that matters as well. And I don't think it matters any less just because all the humans involved are like eating food grown by robots or something like that, because they've all decided that's fine. Like, that's not what we care about. So
We get
yeah.
to make our meaning. We get to choose.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And maybe later on, in like at like a different level of abstraction, farther into the future, it's like, damn, I'm gonna send my starships out to these galaxies, and the work is hard, and like to click this button or something like that.
Like you're playing StarCraft.
Yeah.
Just a handful of additional miscellanea. One of my favorite parts of that recent letter is you talking about pluralism, marginalia, and optimism. I think it's worth people go reading. But one of the parts that really anchors it so well is Andor, in season 2 of Andor.
I love Andor.
But I'll open it up to you. Why are those 3 values so kind of highly prized to you?
Yeah, I think maybe pluralism is just like the most highly prized value to me, even though I recognize the contradiction of like, oh, like, what do you mean the most highly prized value is pluralism or something like that? And the other two I just wrote as sort of like themes to personal life of the year, where I got to travel to a lot of different countries, and I got to see a lot of like tiny bits of bureaucracy, and then I got to see a lot of people being so optimistic. So and then for that letter, I wrote about Isaiah Berlin a lot, and I really imagine him as like both intellectually like a role model, where I think I agree with him a lot about a lot of what he says about pluralism, not being able to like rank order your values, as a lot of philosophies related to AI are very prone to doing. The hedgehog and the fox, as you know, but also like a sort of role model as like a consumer producer. So where he in his life he basically like knew everybody who was alive at the time, or got to talk to them, as like lived this very full
He was a
and
good hang.
yeah, exactly. And he also produced stuff, and he also like spoke to the general public, right? Or like a lot of his lectures or his essays were like very helpful to outside academia, just like explaining ideology in the 20th century. And one of my aspirations will be to just like do a tiny bit to help explain like technology, which I think is the thing of the 21st century, but it probably has always been. But he is also like a role model in that way. So talking about Berlin a lot, pluralism being an important value, and the other two are mainly just like things that I felt like tied together the other stuff that happened in the year.
Marginality came up even in our conversation. It's the list of names, the
Yeah.
people on the edges. What idea of Berlin's or piece of Berlin's would you think would be most impactful for people to know about or familiarize themselves with? Would it be Hedgehog and the Fox? Is it something else, or maybe not a piece, but just an idea?
Yeah, I think
Pluralism itself.
just the idea of the hedgehog and the fox I found really fun, and people have mentioned there's just something about animals, imagining the animals.
I liked your little short story, by the way. That was
Oh,
good.
thanks. Yeah, so I think even just the idea, and reading like a few pages of the essay, so it's quite a long essay, but and most of it is about Tolstoy, actually. So I found it super interesting. Yeah, it is maybe a bit separate from just the idea, where he wants to write an essay about Tolstoy, but he's like, okay, but how do I introduce this essay? Tolstoy doesn't fit in these two categories perfectly in the way that all these other people in history, like let's just begin with this thought experiment. Like, this is what a hedgehog is. This is what a fox is. Who's a hedgehog? Who's a fox? A hedgehog knows one big thing, and a fox knows many things. So you can think of it as like a generalist, or like someone who's obsessed with something. And then if you take in some kind of like consilience value, pluralism, everyone should really be both at the same time.
Always. It's always both. Just to wonder optimistically, briefly for a moment, how might things be, if all of this really works, how might things be really great? Or what are you excited about?
Okay, so also to connect it to things not really being different because they're different all the time, I think that in the wealthy worlds, we basically have already reached this, right? Like people who are very wealthy in the world today, probably a lot of the people listening to this, are like never have to worry about food or water or things like that. Have a lot of choice in what they can do with their time. Have a lot of choice in how they decide their own identity and what they value. Right. Of course, there are limitations, and as humans, maybe we focus too much on the limitations of like, I have to do this. I really wish I didn't have to do that. And I think that this will become available to a lot more people. We have to deal with inequality as an issue, but just like making everybody wealthier works when making people wealthier is like basically free. But not only that, but second, that like people who were already able to do this will sort of um, come face to face with the fact that you should be doing this earlier. You should be doing this now. You could have
No
always,
excuses.
yeah, you could have always been doing this. The thing about AI as a thing, just like pandemic as a thing, or like all these like serious kind of like near term like thought experiments you could do about your own life as a thing, will really make you come face to face with it. Maybe people already are, and that's why some people turn to religion, something like that. And I think we will just like be engaging with this question a lot more. I also really am inspired by like Demos's. Like maybe we will really find like the true nature of reality in some way that's very convincing to us as well.
You write annual letters. largely inspired, I think, by Dan Wang.
Yes.
There was a bit where you're quoting Dan advocating for the letters. First, Dan says, "I don't understand why more people aren't writing them. It's not just about sharing your thoughts and recommendations with the rest of the world. Having this vessel that you're motivated to fill encourages being more observant and analytical in daily life too." And then you say, "He's right. This letter, the only deadline I give myself every year, is an immensely powerful nudge to do more interesting things during the year, if only subconsciously. It's the best antidote to the temptation to time box research, writing, or enjoying life." How has writing these letters changed you? How has it improved your life?
Yeah, I think really a lot of it is subconscious, where you think, okay, well, life is long or short, however much you say it. When you think of a whole year, and I don't know if people usually think in the future in like 12 years, 5 years, right?
You wrote
2
somewhere, by the way,
weeks.
about like a 12-year plan.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
Because it's
ambitious.
like so divisible, you know. But yeah, in the same way that you can't really plan ahead, and then therefore you should really plan ahead, right? Like yeah, this is a tangent, but because the near future is so uncertain, then if you were to think like, who am I going to be 12 years ahead? You really focus on what doesn't change, right? Or like,
Yes.
what do I really value? That's that sort of thing. Or like,
Yes.
and that's also very clarifying. But yeah, subconsciously, I think through the year you just think like, oh, this will be good for the bit, like, or
Are you writing throughout the year?
no. So I have like a big Apple Note that I just put bullets in, and this could be thoughts, or this could be I have to. Probably fit in this like important event in AI at some point, or just to not forget it, or like the model releases are so fast or so frequent. I'm like, did that model come out this year or last year? Like,
Right.
yeah, it's just one big Apple Note.
Hmm. Is there anyone you really wish would write an annual letter?
I think all my friends should write one.
It's hard. You write. These are like 12,000
But
words.
you only have to do it once a year. So I don't think I'm very productive as a person. There are people who are like churning out like 3,000 words a week, right? It's harder when it needs to be some kind of synthesis, or you're reflecting on something instead of maybe just journaling, and there's no set boundaries of how far back you have to go or what you have to cover. But it's easier in that it is personal, and it just so happens that personal stuff is scarce, and personal stuff the AI will never be able to automate, right? And but like writing about personal stuff is a lot easier than I think than like, okay, you have to reinvent philosophy and come up with a new theory.
You do a little bit of both, but how have you become a better writer over the course of these? You've done 4 of them now,
Yeah, so every year I write these. I also keep like a little list of like,
right?
okay, these are things I have to remember about writing the next time around. Um, some of them are just things that everyone knows but are still really hard to do. Like just getting words on the page is kind of the most important thing, and you have to get through the bad words to get to the good words. I think uh, in the same way of in the rest of my life, I like rewrite lists all the time. Just it's sort of like you have a row of your ducks, and you're like patting all the ducks. Just like, yes, you're still there, and I've like done the next sequential thing on the list. I think that often rewriting like end to end is helpful. So even if you're writing the exact same words,
Wow.
it is sort of like you're reading it as a reader would read it. And by the time you're at the end of writing like a longer piece, and you've spent a lot of time with it, you're like lost in the sauce. So for my last letter, just the opening like few paragraphs of like how to sort of like just with words try to AI pill somebody. It's like doesn't work on me anymore, right? Because I've like read it so many times. But maybe you can salvage that a little bit by you start from a blank page, and you just like write sequentially exactly as the reader would read it, and then in a very short context, you load it all into the memory of like, okay, so the reader knows this fact now, and now I've introduced this proper noun, and so I'm like loading the reader's context as they would read it. Then I would get to a point of it's like, oh, this doesn't make any sense because I'm like lost in the sauce, and so I've like mentioned this concept before even introducing it or something like that.
Wow, that sounds exhausting, but probably good advice. Probably effective.
It doesn't take that long, actually. I think, at least for me, main bottleneck of writing is just like, am I writing directionally correct?
Ah,
Right. So all the time that I spent like retyping the exact same words, um, it's not the bottleneck, and it can also like add
get
some
the
momentum. Yeah.
yeah. Get the
Yeah.
pedals going. Why do you love the Economist obituaries?
Oh, yeah. So, one is there's only 50 a year. Two is they pick subjects that are not, just like famous people. So, like if the queen dies, the queen gets an obituary. But um, a lot of them are people most people will not have heard of. So, someone who was just a really important member of this community, like this tiny island off the coast of Scotland, and there's this guy who's like really important to that community, for example, or the last speaker of a language. Or someone who started a school for disadvantaged children in like this particular part of London, but
Mm.
like something like that. I just love learning about this, or like acquiring this new information that I never would have known otherwise. So a lot of it is curation. I think the curation is excellent. I think that the fact that they're written from the perspective of the person, in a way that's more like, it's not fictional, but it's like, there's like more flourishes that are associated with like trying to put you physically in the place. Like, maybe there wasn't an ocean breeze, but like, who does it hurt to pretend there was a breeze on this important day in this person's life?
Yeah.
Yeah, and all Economist pieces are like quite concise, and so it's just wonderful.
One or two that you would very specifically recommend that come to
Um,
mind?
yes. Okay. So Pasha Lee and Albert Woodfox, both from 2022. Um, and then I also want to say, from that year, Thich Nhat Hanh. I emailed Enro, the editor, saying she should do an obituary for him,
Wow.
and she replied, "It's like, I'm on it." So I don't know if I actually made a difference, but
That's
that's
pretty, it would be quite I don't know, correlation causation. That's pretty cool. Wow. Um, 100 Years of Solitude. Why is it your favorite?
It's just really beautiful, and I think it's a book about everything. So everything is in it, and maybe even more than 100% of everything is in it, because you've got people just suddenly like floating off to heaven, and gypsies visiting your village, showing off new technologies that never existed. I just so I think there's a way of doing magical realism or trying to write a book about everything that just doesn't work. And this is maybe doesn't answer your question, but I just feel like everything fits together so well, or nothing feels out of place, or nothing feels this is just an extraneous detail or something. I guess somehow everything just like fits in super well. And in generally, in books and films and things, I like ensemble casts, or like many generations. It's just so rich, and
You ever
there's
seen
so much going on.
Magnolia by Paul?
Yes, yes, I love that one as well.
A book I love. When we cease to understand the world, this is you. I won't presume to tell you what you should think after reading this book, but surely everyone who reads this book will agree. Any scientist who reads this book and also thinks their work is worth a damn should think something. I don't have a question. I wanted to read that. That was good. I assume you've read The Maniac as well.
Yes.
I still haven't, but I'm curious which book feels more resonant for the time. Is it still?
So I think when we cease to understand the world is more evergreen.
Yeah.
And then for me, the last third of the Maniac, which was about DeepMind and AlphaGo, I think it goes over a lot of the same ground of the documentary. So watching the documentary is good. But in general, I just think the author Labertat. So he's apparently friends with Demis as Jasmine.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I think he is also really good at like keeping in mind the sort of weirdness, or the grandness of the scale. He would also be someone I would look towards whenever I'm like, oh, is all we have really this like techno singularity, where at the end of it we get flying cars? No, we can be much more ambitious than that. We can, you know, we can like face the whole scale of all we don't know in the universe, and then that's really maybe the most ambitious we could be.
There's a quote from him, I think, in the interview with Jasmine, that I'm sure I'm going to butcher, but it's something along the lines of, "That's the thing about humans. We're far better at being than we are at knowing."
Yeah, everyone should watch that interview with Jasmine.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good. We're in London. You seem to have a lot of love for this place. You've called it the best pre-AGI city and the best post-AGI city.
That's right.
What do you love about it?
Um, Other than the long litany of just like practical things like parks, best airport, I will not be elaborating, food, all of these things. I just think there is it's like a great representation of pluralism. The fact that there has been um, 697 Lord Mayors of London or something like that. There, like that's existed for a long time. There must be something about the city existing for that long. Having such a diversity of like anything that you want to do, you would be able to find a scene for it. The fact that people are so reasonable and so funny.
A good place to be a consumer.
Yes, for sure. The best place.
Do you think you'll ever make a game?
Yeah, I think so. And
What
it's
kind of
getting
game?
easier every year. So, in terms of should you take a break or something? Yeah, I think I've always wanted to make like a Chinese history inspired Game of Thrones kind of thing. Um, yeah, I think people should write a series like this too. I've tried Ken Liu's Dandelion Dynasty. Unfortunately, I couldn't get into it as much, but I think there's a lot of room for that.
What about container ships? Why? Why are you so into them? Maybe you're not so into them, but
I am so into them. They're just so efficient, or like we don't wish for world government or anything, but the fact that everybody has agreed on this kind of standardization, I think the benefits of how much it's improved our lives is just uh hard to comprehend. Just how like people they ship like trash to a different country to be like sorted and then like shipped back or so. That's probably that turns out to be the most efficient way to do it, maybe.
Okay, so there are a few ways that top-down total control, or at least total collective decision making, can be pretty good.
I think just agreeing on some standards, which doesn't seem like it should be that high stakes, just could have like a lot of benefits. Yeah.
Mm, I think I referenced it earlier. You often cite this Nabil Qureshi and Dan Wang kind of advice on productivity, which is just do more. I think you say you can have free lunch across the Pareto front. You also somewhere else. Forgive me because I don't have the date written down, so it's possible this was 2 years ago. But this is in one of the letters. You say the problem is more general than exercise, though. If I want to read, play music, practice Chinese, and pick up new hobbies, and it isn't happening more by now, what makes me think it has a better chance of happening later? It's time to either change or quit. I was optimistic last year about a big virtuous cycle where doing everything makes everything else easier. I'm going to take the opposite view this year, that I should be honest about the actual trade-offs I face. Either way, it sounds trite, but I'll figure it out one day. Obviously, I don't think these things are fully mutually exclusive, but I think one of the things we kind of gradually learn, and sometimes they hit you in the face, is that there isn't that much time.
Yeah.
And you really do have to choose. I think the doing more thing is also true, but I was just curious how it's going.
Yeah. I think the year after that, I sort of even said slightly the opposite,
Yeah.
where I'm going to like do more. And so yeah, I think a lot of things, it's you like when we started off talking about research, you take a position that is maybe slightly too much to the extreme and you learn something about it, and then you just develop a better taste or prioritization so that in the future you are sort of doing the balance better. Yeah.
Do you ever let your computers idle overnight?
So I think this is, depends on like compute allocation for the team where it's like shared across the team. So I rest assured that the computers are never idle.
Well, I feel like even including many non-AI researchers, most of the people I know are paranoid and freaked out to ever leave Claude not running on their computer.
Yeah, but that's also no way to live. Like
No.
if I think there are bigger costs to that. Where yes, you're letting your computer or Claude idle, but if your production function, which I really think all humans are, you just need time to think, and one should not be concerning themselves with tiny things like optimizing their usage. So that you can focus on bigger problems. Maybe you should hire somebody to, use your um, quota efficiently, but that you just need to be like focused on the big problems, right?
Mm.
And so there will be bigger costs that come with if you micromanage your quota, your time.
Maybe leave the optimization to the machines.
Sounds good.
Uh, I Worth shouting her out because I'm having dinner with her tonight. But I know you love it. Why do you resonate so much with everything's a scam?
Yeah, I think it's just a great reminder. Like maybe in the same kind of thing where like every time you read a work of fiction, say Foundation, and it just like makes one point super well. Um, um, just like this is a great reminder. A lot of the things Riva does is a great reminder. The fact that she made this a song and it's on Spotify, like it's like very much you can just do things. Everything is a scam. Like opens up like your ability to do things. I'm also very inspired by like her like opening a toy store in London, like a lot of other schemes that she's running. And scam isn't so bad. It's just the rules are changeable, or the rules are made up or not totally set in stone.
Indeed. Uh, my last thing is a quote from Burke that you quote in one of your letters. This felt to me fitting because it seems like a case for the long journey of research and discovery and adventure. Um, I'm quoting now. By a slow but well sustained progress, the effect of each step is watched. The good or ill success of the first gives light to us in the second. And so, from light to light, we are conducted with safety through the whole series. We compensate, we reconcile, we balance. We are enabled to unite in a consistent whole the various anomalies and contending principles that are found in the minds and affairs of men. From hence arises not an excellence in simplicity, but one far superior, an excellence in composition.
I think it just encapsulates the point I was trying to make there, but also what we talked about of like trying to make the transition to powerful AI go well. Uh, there is just a lot of talk about this time is different, about step changes, about um, distinction, right? And that's very useful in um, like shaking people, right? And getting them to feel the wave crashing over them. But once you get there, or sort of be careful what you wish for. Maybe you don't want the prize on offer, and really the more effective or like the better way to do it is there are these promises that we've made before, and we're going to keep them. And the important stuff is not going to change. The important stuff has always been there. AI just makes you face the questions that you should have been facing all along a lot sooner, or like at the right time. And it's great that something that Burke wrote so long ago is still relevant, and a great point for him as well.
Indeed. Anything else you want to talk about?
Nope, that's good.
That's all I got. Zhengdong, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Zhengdong. You can share the episode with a friend if you want to help out. That certainly means the most. You can also rate it, give it a review on Spotify or wherever you're watching or listening. And of course, subscribe or follow too if you want more episodes. And once again, I'd like to thank Notion for making the show possible. Like I talked about with Zhengdong, The capabilities and the speed of improvement in AI is very hard to keep track of. And the way Notion integrates AI and agents makes it easy to have a single place where you can actually coordinate everything and have access to the latest models the day they come out, whether that be OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, open source models, or otherwise. I think the way the future of work is going is that you and your collaborators will manage and work with a wide range of agents doing all kinds of different work and use AI to give you leverage on the work that you don't want to automate. Notion is the ideal hub or even operating system to run your company, your team, your project from, because you have access to the work itself, all of your collaborators, and these agents that give everyone superpowers. Thanks again to Notion, and you can learn more at notion.com/dialectic. Thank you for listening and supporting the show, and I will see you next time.